Welcome to Best Fountain Pen. Today we're going to be reviewing the Lamy Vista fountain pen. So it's very similar to the Safari, except that this is the demonstrator version, so the clear plastic version, so you can see the inner workings, which is really fun. It came in this box, and I will tell you, even when I ordered this Safari a couple years ago, the box always comes to me from Amazon just a little beaten up. However, the manufacturers or individual retailers choose to ship it, which is usually like a oversized bubble wrap envelope, they just get crushed a little bit on the outside. But it had no impact on the pen whatsoever because there's another box inside that I wanted to show you just for this model, and it shows you that it's a fine and from Lamy. I've already obviously inked this up. I just wanted to show you the boxes that it came with. Demonstrators are super fun. So at least for me, I really enjoy the looks of this pen. So here's the looks. It has clear body. You can see the entire ink cartridge. These are not inset like the Safari has the kind of inset lettering kind of like drilled out and then painted in. These are just stamped on. So it says Lamy in silver there, which is, it looks really nice. I think it doesn't interfere with the looks of the pen. You can see all the inner workings, the section and feed, and then the ginormous, huge, gigantic clip that is, it'll hold itself to anything. That's definitely functional. The end is just kind of a screwdriver looking cap there. It's a pull off and pull on cap assembly, so it doesn't click shut, which I usually like that really satisfying click, but you can definitely hear it gripping that little rubber O-ring there to try to keep the air out. And a very simple steel nib assembly, so I don't know if you can grab that in the light. Just a super simple, not much decoration on the nib there. It's a solid steel nib. This one's a fine, which I will show you a writing sample of next. And then it came with the Lamy cartridge. So you could probably, you could also buy a converter as well, but it came with a cartridge. So I just loaded the Lamy ink, which by the way, I'm not a huge fan of. It's just not a very saturated blue. You'll see that in the writing sample though. But I do love the overall look of this pen. I think it's fun. I think it's just fun to see the mechanics of the inside of a fountain pen. So we'll take a look at the writing sample next. All right, so we're going to move on to the Lamy Vista writing sample on Rhodia paper. Just a quick 5x9 notepad. I am covering up a previous writing sample just so as not to distract your eyes, but also I just like to use the paper. I don't like to waste it, so I want to make sure I'm using each full sheet because it's really nice paper that I really enjoy. So we just went over the review, and I forgot to mention it does have a triangular grip, just like the Lamy Safari. So it's very comfortable, and the grooves are exactly where I tend to hold the pen. So that must be for most people because the reviews are the same of this in most places as it is the Safari, which are, it's just very easy to grip. I find it funny that they have the ink windows even though it's a demonstrator, but I think that's pretty cool. One thing I will tell you is I'm using the included Lamy cartridge long that came with it. I'm not a huge fan of the blue, which you're about to see. This is a fine nib, and the fine nib with this kind of light blue ink tends to not have a very saturated line, and it almost looks like an extra fine. And I believe if I were to ink this with a darker ink, it would perform better for me. So my next ink of choice when I run out of this blue is definitely going to be black or a dark navy blue ink, just to get a little bit of a darker saturation in the color. So I'll show you that next. And again, this is the fine nib on the Lamy Vista. All right, so that is the writing sample of the Lamy Vista fountain pen. You can go to my website for a full review of this fountain pen, including close-up photos. But otherwise, this pen, just like I wrote in the sample, writes a little bit dry. Not a bad thing, but definitely great for thinner papers if you wanted to grab the fine nib. It almost strikes me as an extra fine just based on how dry it writes and the saturation of the ink. It's a really light blue ink, so you don't see that a lot. I just had one skip, I forgot where it was, on the G on writing sample, and I was kind of dragging that super quickly, but overall not any other skipping. I haven't had any problems when I've journaled with it, but I don't find it as fun to write with as some of my other pens just because it is a little bit on the dry side, but I love looking at it. The look of the pen is super fun. So maybe with some other inks, I think it would write a little better with some more saturated blues. Otherwise, if I were to order this again, I would probably go with the medium just so that I could try to get a little bit more ink to page. Thanks so much for watching, bestfountainpen.com.